The CIA had the use of a fleet of special aircraft to spirit detainees to its web of black sites across the globe. They were knocked out with sedatives during the flights, and upon arrival had their heads and beards shaved, and they were placed in sterile underground cells with only an arrow painted on the floor pointing to Mecca. In total, the CIA picked up about 100 detainees, subjected 75 of them to harsh interrogation techniques, 3 of them to waterboarding, including Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, or KSM, the mastermind of 9/11. When KSM was first captured in 2003, he was in no mood to talk.
The story will continue in a moment.
Oh, he was not going to talk. I mean, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is one of the toughest killers out there.
I heard he was brilliant.
He was brilliant. He was scary smart, but he's also evil, and he will use that intelligence to find different ways of coming after us.
He says that in the beginning, KSM would respond to questions by reciting verses from the Quran.
He eventually told us, well, look, I will talk once I get to New York and I get my lawyer.
Oh,
he
my
knew
God.
that if he got into the criminal process in the U.S., that he would get a lawyer and he would use that forum.
He'd use it as a platform for his ideology.
He would use it as a platform.
Faced with KSM's obstinance, CIA interrogators began ratcheting up the severity of the questioning step by step. Did you make him wear diapers?
Diapers, I don't recall it specifically to him, but diapers is something that is approved.
So humiliating.
It's standard, yeah.
According to an internal investigation by the CIA's own Inspector General, this is a heavily redacted, declassified copy, KSM was denied sleep for 180 hours in a row, or about 7.5 days, and still he didn't break.
He was the toughest detainee that we had, no doubt.
So he was subjected to waterboarding, specifically 183 pourings of water in about half a dozen separate sessions. Rodriguez said the average pour lasted 10 seconds.
Can I say something about Khalid Sheikh Mohammed? He's the one that was responsible for the death of Danny Pearl, the Wall Street reporter. He slit his throat in front of the camera. I don't know what type of man it takes to cut the throat of someone in front of you like that, but I can tell you that this is an individual who probably didn't give a rat's ass about having water poured on his face.
He never believed for 1 second you were going to kill him.
No. And let me just tell you, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed would use his fingers to count the number of seconds because he knew that in all likelihood we would stop at 10. So this doesn't sound like a person who is afraid of dying.
If he's sitting there counting off, he knows you're not going to kill him, he knows he's not going to drown, then why do it? What's the point?
I think that the cumulative effect of waterboarding and sleep deprivation and everything else that was done eventually got to him.
So what happens? Does he break down? Does he weep? Does he fall apart?
No, he gets a good night's sleep. He gets his insure. By the way, he was very heavy when he came to us, and he lost 50 pounds.
What, his insure? You mean like people in the hospital who drink that stuff?
Yes. Dietary manipulation was part of these standard techniques.
So sleep deprivation, dietary manipulation, I mean, this is Orwellian stuff. The United States doesn't do that.
Well, we do.
The question is whether the information they got from KSM was truthful and helpful. In his report, the CIA's Inspector General says that the CIA's Office of Medical Services concluded that when it came to the waterboarding, there was no reason to think that it had been effective or that it was safe. Well, this is your own Inspector General.
Well, our own Inspector General, in many cases, did very sloppy work. That report is flawed in many different ways.
Why would they make it up?
I don't know if it's made up. I don't know if there were advocates. You know, the Inspector General himself, he was opposed to this. I mean, but this was the policy. He was wrong.
But many of the tips from detainees reportedly led to blind alleys and expensive wild goose chases. Rodriguez maintains that the information from KSM and the other detainees enabled the CIA to disrupt at least 10 large-scale terrorist plots. Would the plots have been stopped without the harsh interrogation techniques? In other words, could it have happened without waterboarding?
I can't answer that question, perhaps, but the issue here was timing. We needed information, and we needed it right away to protect the homeland.
You told us that the whole rationale, justification for the whole interrogation program was to stop an imminent attack. The Inspector General says it didn't stop any imminent attack.
I submit to you that we don't know. We don't know if, for example, Al-Qaeda would have been able to continue on with their anthrax program or a nuclear program or the second wave of attacks or the sleeper agents that they had inside the United States that were working with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed to take down the Brooklyn Bridge, for example. So it's easy years later to say, well, you know, no ticking time bomb, nothing was stopped.
But the truth is about Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, you really didn't break him.
Why? Why you say
Well,
that?
he didn't tell you about Osama bin Laden. He didn't tell you how to get him. He didn't tell you how to find him.
Some of these people were not going to tell us everything.
So you don't break them. And they
There
told you
is a
lies.
limit. There is a limit to what they will tell us.
Actually, KSM lied about the courier, whose identity finally led to the compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, where the terrorist leader he calls Sheikh bin Laden was hiding. Now, here's what I had heard, that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed told you the courier had retired and threw you off the scent for a while.
That was the one secret he was going to take to the grave, and that was the protection of the Sheikh. He was not going to tell us.
One of the secrets Rodriguez had hoped to take to his grave was exposed in 2007. The CIA had videotaped the interrogation of two of its detainees, including Abu Zubaydah.
The reason why we taped Abu Zubaydah was because he was very wounded when he was captured, and we feared that he was going to die in captivity. So we wanted to show the world that we actually had nothing to do with his death, that he died on his own.
Well, that's ironic. You wanted to have a video record that he was being well treated. But in the end, they became a video record that he'd been subjected to these harsh techniques.
Yeah, we weren't hiding anything.
But you then ordered these tapes destroyed.
Correct. 92 tapes.
92 tapes. Why did you order that they be destroyed?
To protect the people who worked for me and who were at those black sites and whose faces were shown on the tape.
Protect them from what?
Protect them from Al-Qaeda ever getting their hands on these tapes and using them to go after them and their families.
He was also worried about the very survival of the CIA's dark side, the clandestine service, because of the so-called Abu Ghraib effect.
I was concerned that the distinction between a legally authorized program, as our enhanced interrogation program was, and illegal activity by a bunch of psychopaths would not be made.
He says that CIA lawyers repeatedly asked the White House, Justice Department, and Vice President Cheney's office for permission to shred the tapes. But
nobody was making a decision to proceed.
So one day you just said, the hell with it, I have this authority, I'm going to do it.
One day I finally called in my advisors and lawyers and said, tell me again that this is legal, and tell me that I have the authority to do this. When the answer I received was yes and yes, then I said, well, I am going to make this decision and do it myself.
Boom, they were destroyed.
Yes.
They were destroyed in an industrial strength shredder. Well, here's what you write in your book. You took the president's, the vice president's silence on this to mean they were really relieved that you had taken this on yourself and had done it. That's what you write.
Correct.
There are people who feel that you did it as a cover-up.
Everything that was on those tapes were authorized activities by the U.S. government. So there was nothing to cover up.
Yet after the story broke in the newspapers, the Justice Department launched a criminal investigation. Ultimately, Rodriguez was cleared of any criminal wrongdoing. By then, the CIA's Inspector General's report was partly declassified, detailing some of the program's excesses. Mock executions? People threatened with power drills?
Yes.
People told that you were going to go and hurt their children, rape their wives?
Stupid things that were done by people who had no authority to do that.
And they just took it on themselves.
Correct. And we found out about it, and we self-reported and actually called in the IG and said, you better take a look at what these people did and do what you need to do.
You have some people out there who were taken to black sites. They were subjected to terrible treatment. They hadn't done anything. I mean, they were taken mistakenly. They disappeared. What about them?
No doubt when you are involved in complicated covert action programs like this one, that some mistakes will be made.
Rodriguez retired from the CIA in January 2008. He has spent the last year writing his book, published by the CBS company Simon & Schuster. In the book, he says that by canceling the interrogation program, President Obama has tied the government's hands in the war on terror.
We don't capture anybody anymore, Lesley. I mean, their default option of this administration has been to kill all prisoners, take no prisoners.
The drones.
The drones. How can it be more ethical to kill people rather than capture them? I've never understood that one.
President Obama has said that what we did was torture.
Well, President Obama is entitled to his opinion. When President Obama condemns the covert action activities of a previous government, he is breaking the covenant that exists between intelligence officers who are at the pointy end of the spear hanging way out there and the government that authorized them and directed them to go there.
John McCain, a huge critic of this program. He had been tortured, so we know where he's coming from. Here's what he said. It's killing us, that America will sink to the level of its worst enemies. We forfeited our values, he said. And I guess what I want to ask is, didn't it actually change who we are, what we think we're about? I mean, we think we're the country that doesn't do that, right?
I am very secure in what we did, and I am very confident that what we did saved American lives.
This Tuesday is the one-year anniversary of the U.S. Special Forces raid that resulted in the death of Osama bin Laden.
Go to 60minutesovertime.com to hear more about the reporting of this story from the producers, sponsored by Viagra.